Maybe before we start, I will give you guys a bit of a rundown of what's the plan today. So we have Christian Starkey. Is it how you pronounce your last name? Is it right? Yes. As you can see, guys, we didn't do a lot of repetition there. So Christian from OpenSolar will talk a bit about their platform. It's very interesting. I'm also learning a lot about OpenSolar. So he will talk a bit about the company and also give you some examples of their platform there. And then I will cover about the Gen24. So this session is mainly key points, what is really important in terms of the Gen24 and what things you should pay attention with the product. So we'll go through that. And at the end of the session, we will do a Q&A session. So you can still send us questions. So there will be someone also from OpenSolar here with us answering some questions. So Diane also will be answering some questions. I will try to answer all your questions on the Fronius side at the end. So yeah, so I will leave it to Christian for, let's say, the OpenSolar side of things. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Sebastien. Thank you for the kind introduction. Yeah, not much repetition there, but you managed to get my name right. Well done. So yeah, thanks for having me on board today. Really excited about having you guys on this webinar. We're running through OpenSolar, just a bit of a general training overview of the software. Then Sebastian's going to be taking on and speaking about the Gen24 and you know, the product details itself. And yeah, like you said, ask any questions about OpenSolar as we run through the presentation. I'm sitting here as well with my colleague Dion, who'll handle some of those questions as they come through. So if you didn't already know OpenSolar, if you're brand new to the app, I'll just give you a quick high-level you know, overview of what it is. So essentially, we are an end-to-end sales and design application for solar businesses. We're a cloud-based app, so you just access it through the internet. You can also get it on your mobile and tablet device as well. And end-to-end, I'm talking about, you know, generating leads at the very beginning, coming through to create that project, design the system, generating an interactive and digital sales proposal, which is what we're looking at right now, actually, sending that out to your customer, and then managing the steps through the CRM as well. You can close the sale online and then deliver any post-sales documentation. So just starting on this My Energy page today, like I said, this is the end product of OpenSolar. So this is what your customer is going to see when you send out their proposal. You'll see the app is split into 4 zones here. So just briefly on each of these zones, the project areas where you create your projects and you manage the CRM, some of the key project details in there, like the customer's usage and their utility rate. The studio zone is where you're doing the solar designing. The My Energy page, like I said, is the sales proposal. So it's just a preview of what the customer is saying. And then the control zone is where you're setting up all of your key settings, you know, your pricing, your hardware, your proposal templates, and things like that. So starting on this My Energy page, giving you guys a quick run through from the customer's perspective. We've got a few key figures at the top here. The customer can click between different system options that you're providing them. And as they click between these, all the figures and the charts that flow through the proposal will be updated. Likewise with the payment options, you know, if you're switching between loan and cash options, obviously like the monthly repayments and the savings and things like that will also be updated. And something that we're going to focus in on today is the Fronius partnership that you guys might already know about previous to this webinar. We have the beautiful exhibited content here from our friends at Fronius. This includes some branding, you know, imagery of the products. You've got videos there that you can play and show your customer. So this is a specific one to the Gen24 inverter. You've got detailed brochures as well, which you can look at. So you click on them and you get a little pop-up there, which is nice. And then you've also got the spec sheets included. So lots of great selling material that gets included within this Fronius exhibit. And this is something that our users have told us in the past that helps them sell better, is having this exhibited content on their proposals as well. So you've got the Gen24, but you also have a huge range of Fronius products exhibited on OpenSolar. Coming further down the proposal, we've got the system performance here, which just explains, you know, that the output of the system versus the your customer's consumption. Particularly useful is when you are switching over to a battery option here. You can check out the daily energy profile, which gives a preview of the energy flows for that system throughout the day. You can see the battery charging up here and discharging through the evening throughout various months and seasons of the year there. So that's a good tip when you have battery designs included in your proposals as well. You've got how your system works to break it down nice and simple, once again including the battery and the diagram there. The environmental benefits, the financial impact of the system here as well, and the electricity bill savings. So this is really useful as well when you're comparing cash to loan options. You can then see the quarterly payments within those savings area there. So they automatically get calculated for you. And then coming down to the bottom here, you have the quotation table. Now that I've selected this plenty loan option, which is actually one of our financial integrations for residential solar, your customer can switch between different loan options. So we've got a 36-term option and also a 60-term option. And they can easily compare those different choices there. They can then go right through to apply for the finance, and that will take them through to Plenty's iframe, where they can then submit their application, or they can just go right through with the cash option. They can go through to accept proposal and pay the deposit with the steps that you're providing them, any payment information that you're giving them in here. They can then sign away to confirm and pay there. If the customer wants to download the proposal, or if you want to send it out as a PDF, you can do so as well by clicking download here, and then just generating a PDF version as well, if you prefer to do it like that. So that's a brief run through of the My Energy page, which is once again the sales proposal that we have set up in OpenSolar. All of this is fully customizable, so you can really tailor it towards your business, put any marketing material, testimonials, things that will help you sell better and increase your selling proposition. You can really enhance this page to make it your own and boost your sales. So let's jump into the control zone now. I'm just going to show you guys quickly how to incorporate the Fronius hardware into your account before you go and do your designs. So come into control and then design and hardware, inverters. Just on the top right, clicking plus create. And then in here, just typing in Fronius. And specifically today, the Gen24, we can type in Gen, and then it will come up with our list of inverters. So let's put in this 8 kilowatt one. You can then put in the cost per unit that you're paying for it there. So that will factor it in to your cost breakdown. And then you can go ahead and click save, and it will just load into your active list of inverters. So then you'll be ready to start using them in your designs in the studio zone. Okay, great. So now once we've got the Fronius hardware set up, let's go back to projects. We're going to create a new project as an example. Sorry, just clicking the project button one more time. That brings us back to this project list where we can then view all of our different projects. We can star, favorite, we can one-click call, text, and email our customers right from the app here as well, which is really handy. And you can also add various different filters there, which is useful as well if you want to get a short list and then download that short list for reporting purposes outside of OpenSolar. So yeah, let's take it from the top. We'll create a new project up here. We'll just put in an address to work with in this address search bar, and just selecting one from the drop down here. Pardon me. And then just putting in any contact details in there. You might want to add more details here as well, such as the customer's electricity usage. So you can do that in there too. But for the sake of time today, let's just go right through to create and design. That takes us directly into the studio zone now, where we can start doing our solar design. So we've loaded in the map here. Now, first thing to do would be on the left, just selecting our hardware. So the panels over here, we can click select. We can then go through to search for one of our active modules, which are the ones we'd be using on a regular basis. Otherwise, we can go through and search the module database if we want to. But for today, let's just take this REC panel. And then we can go to the top, click on plus panel group, simply just clicking and dragging the panels across the roof like so. And then we might add a second row up there as well. And so once you've done that, you'll see that these are selected. You get this little yellow arrow indicating the orientation or the azimuth of that array. On the left-hand side, you can do multiple things to this specific array. So moving horizontal allows you to pick up and drag them around. You might want to add a gap between the panels and things like that as well. So you have a few different options in the left-hand toolbar there. Once you're happy with that, you can just click out, then go through to add in your inverter. You might actually just add in one more panel group here as well. Let's put one on this west-facing roof. Perfect. So you can see at the top now we've got 7.9 kilowatt system. We'll add in our inverter now by clicking on plus. You can see here automatically adding in the Gen24. I've just set that to my default, but you can go in once again and click select to choose any other inverters from your list there. So we use the Gen24, and then we can also add in the stringing here as well, guys, by clicking add stringing. You've then got this first MPPT to string with. So we've got our first string now. We can just go right through the first panel group like so. And then if we want to add in another MPPT or another string, you can do so easily by clicking those buttons. So now on our second MPPT, just stringing the system like that as well. So it's pretty straightforward to add in your inverter like so. Just get a broader view of the system here. Perfect, just zoomed out a little bit there. So once you've done your design, you'd then be putting in your pricing and your payment options and things like that. If you want to offer the customer multiple system options, you can do so simply at the top by clicking plus and just duplicating that system. And perhaps for the second system, you might want to give them like a battery option or a bigger system or a different type of hardware or something. You can make any changes now in this area. For this example, let's just take a battery. Might just take this BYD battery for the moment. Maybe add in 3 of those. So we got 8.28 kilowatt hours of storage added in there. And then we can just retitle these system options at the top by clicking that little pen icon. Let's just call this solar. So renaming that, and then over here we can just call this one solar and Gen24. Perfect. So we've got 2 system options now, which looks great. If you wanted to show different views of the home, you can do so with these bottom icons here. So these are oblique angle imagery that you can include as well, which is enhances the look and the feel of the proposal at the end of the day. So then, yeah, you'd configure your pricing in these areas here, your incentives, the STC will automatically be calculated for you, and then your payment options that you're offering there as well. So I've got the 2 plenty options, and I've also got the cash option as my default. And then we can go through to save and continue. We'll have a quick look at my energy page. And now, yeah, we've just loaded into our proposal again. So we've got this brief cover message that welcomes the customer to the proposal. We've got a bit of information about our business here as well on this cover page. And then we're just straight back to where we started at the beginning for that customer view. So it's really quick and easy to design systems in OpenSolar, like you've seen. Probably took me about 3 or 4 minutes there, but I was talking you through everything. So once you've actually set up, all of your hardware, your pricing, your payment options, you're pretty much just, popping out those quotes in a matter of like 1 to 2 minutes, which is great. And it's something that the users of OpenSolar have given us as feedback, is that it just allows them to quote faster and therefore sell more using OpenSolar. So that is great. We'll just we'll skip through now to the control zone, which is where we're going to configure some of that that setup content in here on the left-hand toolbar. So we can go through to the company tab. We'd put in our key business information here at the beginning. Once you create your account, you can just put in some information, about your business in here. Obviously your address and things like that, and your logo. And clicking save to maintain your progress. You'll be adding in your team members in this area by clicking create, and then just putting in their email address. Simple as that, and then that will send them an invitation to join this account so they can use OpenSolar as well. You might also want to restrict their access and things like that. So you can do so for various like sales team members and things like that, which will then just block them from seeing all of the projects in your account, but only ones that they are assigned to. So that might be a handy control for you to use. You got your pricing and your payment options in here. So setting up different pricing schemes that you'd be applying setting up different payment options that you want to offer your customer, including these, I've got the Plenty integration, and then we also have an Energy Ease integration for commercial finance as well. So if you're interested in these, just come into this area of control, into payment options. On your screen, you should have 2 banners here, which you can then go through to learn more and get accredited with those, with these guys here. And then you'll be able to set up the integration and offer the finance directly on that My Energy page down there. You can set up any of your costings in here so that all of your costs of your business are accounted for when you're doing your designs in OpenSolar. So this might be useful. You might set up different cost lists for different types of projects that you have. All of your design and hardware are within this area. So, your modules, your inverters and batteries and other components, just like I showed you at the beginning, clicking create to search for one in our database, then adding in the cost of that specific component, and then you'd be hitting save, and that's pretty much it to load in all of your hardware. And then finally, I'll just touch on this purchase experience section. So the purchase experience is everything that relates to your end customer. So this proposal template area is where you'd be setting up that My Energy page to customize the proposal and putting in your own marketing material and things like that to enhance the selling proposition. You've got the contract template in there, which is where you can put in your terms and conditions of your business. So they have to accept and sign off on those when they want to go through with their system option. And then the checkout experience is where you'd put any final payment details in there, such as accepting, credit card payments, bank transfers, and things like that. So that's a pretty general run through of the OpenSolar app, pretty high level, but we do have a lot more training material in this support button at the bottom right here. So you can click on this guy, you can go through to our help center, or you can also join some of our webinars. I run webinars 3 times a week, and they're happening on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They just deep dive into different sections of the app. So if you want to learn a little bit more, then I really urge you to join these webinars with me. They're at 3 p.m. Sydney time on each of those days. So yeah, you got that resource, which is great. They also have a Q&A session as well if you're getting stuck. But yeah, jump into our help center. It looks like this. You got a training package there of videos, which is really useful, and you got different articles that answer to different things of different sections of the app. Sorry. And yeah, a few other help resources here, such as like submitting tickets. You can actually book in a call with me if it's your first time using OpenSolar, and I can help you get set up. Or you can seek professional assistance from Simon Liz there as well and check out some of their offerings. But yeah, if you're brand new to OpenSolar, you haven't got an account yet, I just urge you to go to opensolar.com. Simply click on Open Account in the top right, just while we're loading in here. Click on Open Account there. It's actually just going to take me back to OpenSolar because I'm already registered. I'm already signed in there, sorry. But if you just go to Open Account, it will take you to this page where you can then just register, just put in your business name, your email, and then you're pretty much good to go and get started. So I will now hand it back to Sebastien, who's going to take on with the rest of the presentation regarding Fronius. But thanks for letting me introduce OpenSolar to you guys. Hopefully that was nice and clear. And if you have any questions about OpenSolar, you can submit them in that question box now, or else just contact me at support@opensolar.com, and always happy to help out. So thanks, and passing back over to you, Sebastien.
Thanks, Christian. I think I personally learned a bit, quite a lot about OpenSolar, so really appreciate the presentation there. So as Christian mentioned, guys, so any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat box. So just give me 1 sec. I will just swap that so that you guys can now see my presentation. So just to check, can you guys see my slides on your side? Okay. All right. Can you see my slide, Christian?
Yep, we can see. That's perfect.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So let's jump, let's say, now on the Fronius side of things. I just need to minimize some of those pages there, and very important, turn on the laser pointer. All right, so good afternoon again, guys. And thanks again for OpenSolar for the presentation there. We learned quite a lot of things. So what we're going to do on the Fronius side of things is talk about the Fronius Gen24, which is basically our new hybrid inverter. And we look at, let's say, the features, what makes this inverter special. All right. So as you may know, we've been working on this product for quite a long time, and now it's finally here. So you can put your purchase order with an authorized sales partner like Granite, SolarJuice, SPS, Solar Plus Solution. That's what I just mentioned. Supply partners and BayWa. So they all have, they should have stock and able to take your orders. So the inverter, which is being released soon, is basically the Fronius Primo Gen24 Plus. So we kept with the name Primo and Simo. So Primo means single phase. And with the Primo Gen24, it will go from 3 to 6 kilowatts. So those are basically what is available in terms of manufacturing. But in Australia, we're going to bring the 4, 5, and 6 kilowatt inverter. So the Gen24 has 2 MPPTs for the panels, of course, and 1 battery input for the battery. Then it also has a 3-phase Gen24. So we have, let's say, 2 range in terms of power class. So we have the 3 to 5 kilowatt Gen24, and we have 6 to 10. So it's going to be 3, 4, 5 for the smaller one, and 6, 8, and 10 for the bigger one. Again, 2 MPPTs and 1 battery input. In terms of which battery will be compatible here, it's going to be the BYD to start with. All right, so it's lithium iron phosphate. So you have the HVS, so S stands for small, and it will go from 5.12 kilowatt hour to 10.24 kilowatt hour. And what is really good with the BYD is you can start with 2 modules, which is the lowest, let's say, storage. And then from there, you can add or retrofit more in 2.6 kilowatt hour steps if you want. Also, it's really easy to install. So I did assemble one myself. So it's ground mounted, and the commissioning is pretty simple too. All right. Then from there, you also have the HVM. So this is basically M stands for medium. So what you have again is 4 to 8 modules, same battery chemistry, but this one goes up to 22 kilowatt hours, so more storage. And the same amount of steps in terms of how much you can retrofit later on. So you can start with 4 modules, 11 kilowatt hour, and later on saying, okay, I want more storage. It makes more sense at this stage. Add more if required. Again, ground mount and easy to commission. We also have a cheat sheet for you guys. So depending on which one you're going for, you will have different charging and discharging rate. So here, if you look at the HVS and HVM, you have the charging and discharging rate depending on which inverter you're using. So here you can see the Primo Gen24 Plus and the Simo Gen24 Plus. So just to give you an example in terms of, let's say, discharge and charging capacity there. So here we have the HVS 10.2 kilowatt hour. All right. If you connect this HVS 10.2 kilowatt hour to a Simo Gen24 10 kilowatt, you can get 9 kilowatt discharge. All right. So if you look at, let's say, an HVM, which is, let's say, similar storage capacity, let's say 11 kilowatt hour, you can see even if you connect that to a Simo Gen24 10 kilowatt, you get only 4.5 kilowatt discharge and charge. So this is very important when it comes to explaining to the customer, because a competitor can come in saying, okay, I will offer you an HVM. It is slightly higher in terms of storage, it's 11 kilowatt hour, but you can see the storage, the discharge and charge is different there. So this is where it's really important to explain the customer what they're actually buying. If you ask myself what I would recommend, higher storage, HVM 22 kilowatt hour if I can afford it, and then you get 9 kilowatt charge and discharge is the perfect combination there. So this is a cheat sheet just to explain what you get out of the battery depending on the size that you go. Also, you can parallel up to 3 of those batteries up to 1 Gen24. You just need to be a bit careful, I would say there. So here is again another cheat sheet which shows you how many you can have parallel to 1. So for example, with a Simo Gen24 Plus, a 10 kilowatt inverter, you can't have 3 of those HVM 22 kilowatt hour. You can have 2 of the HVM 22 kilowatt hour parallel together. And also, if you want, you can go 3 HVM 19.3. We get this question also quite often. If you parallel more batteries together, do you get more power out of the battery? No, it stays the same. So just to give you an example, if you do 2 HVM 22.1 kilowatt hour, you still get 9 kilowatt out of the battery. All right. Then the next feature when it comes to the Gen24 is the multi-flow technology. So what is the multi-flow technology? So when you have a DC couple solution, especially with Fronius, what we can do is basically charge the battery at the same time and send power to your load at the same time, or send power to the grid if you still have excess, right? If your batteries are already charged. And this multi-flow technology also applies when the grid is down. So we can charge the battery and also send power to the loads. This is basically different from, let's say, a AC coupled battery where you can do only one thing at a time, right? And also, let's say if you have a third-party inverter or a snap inverter, with this multi-flow technology also applies. So let's have a look of how it works, right? So let's say I have a snap inverter here, or let's say a third-party inverter, which has panels connected to it. Of course, then you have a Gen24, which has panels and battery. What you can do is charge the battery from the panels, right? And also charge the battery from the AC side. And from the AC side, it can be, for example, from this particular inverter, right? So let's say you have surplus of energy, you charge it from here to here, and also from the third-party inverter or snap inverter to the battery, so at the same time. Let's say now you have quite a high consumption, you can discharge the battery and also take power from the PV at the same time and send all the power to your load if required. So that's what we call this multi-flow technology. And this is how we got the first place at this energy inspection in Berlin. So there was a competition that we took part into, and looking at the overall efficiency with BYD, we got the best result of all time, yeah, which is 94%. So of course you convert, you don't need to convert, let's say DC to AC, then AC to DC, and then DC again to AC when you have an AC coupled solution, right? We just do basically DC, you charge directly the battery, and then DC to AC, right? So there's only two processes when you have a DC coupled solution, right? So that's what we want to make sure that you have this high self-consumption rate there. Okay, now let's have a look in terms of backup. So you have few options there. So you have a basic grid backup called the PV point. So what is the PV point? It's basically a single phase supply that you can basically supply power in terms of emergency backup, right? And it's basically automatic. So the inverter will disconnect from the grid and will isolate itself from the grid from there. All right. So this PV point will work with all the units and also will work with the 3 to 5 kilowatt SIMO. Right, so the 3 to 5 kilowatt SIMO Gen24 will only have the PV point. And in terms of backup solution, you have only 3 kilowatt single phase. All right. So why do we have this option? It's a very easy installation. You don't need a lot of extra components. As mentioned, the inverter itself is the point of isolation. So let's have a quick look of how this PV point looks like. So inside the inverter, you will see that there's a second AC output, which goes to a GPU, for example, which looks like this, right? So from there, you have your PV, of course, you have your grid, you have your loads. So when the grid goes down, then this PV point will get energized, maximum again 3 kilowatt, and it's only single phase. So the inverter itself will isolate itself, and then from there you can have power going from the PV to the PV point, of course, and then also from the panels to the battery at the same time. But also this can work from, for example, you can take power from the battery at the same time go to the PV point. But what is really special also with that is you can do it with or without a battery. So how will this work is if you have, let's say, solar energy. So if you have irradiances during the day, you don't have a battery, you can power this PV point. And of course, it will depend on how much energy is available from your PV, right? So if you have 1 kilowatt available, you can send 1 kilowatt to this PV point. So this is, let's say, your inexpensive backup solution, right? You don't need to do a lot of wiring. If you want, you can do a full backup. So with a 3-phase backup power, it's only with a 6 to 10 kilowatt. If you want to do a full backup, It will work also if you want to use a single phase inverter, not a three phase. Of course, a single phase inverter can't do a three phase backup, but you can do a full backup with a single phase inverter, or a three phase full backup with 6 to 10 kilowatt inverter. So you can nearly supply your entire household. It will take around 60 seconds, or let's say less than 60 seconds to switch over. So there is a bit of a delay there. You can choose if you want single phase, or we can also do three phase load. So some motors, for example, some customers has already tried with our three phase inverter. So some of the motors also work. So if you have any motors that you need to back up, please get in touch with us just to check that it is all good to set up. All right, so let's have a look at this full backup. So in this particular full backup, what you will need then is a backup switch. So that's where you need to do a bit of rewiring, and we have recommendation of what to use there. So here the grid goes down, your backup switch opens, and you go into this full backup mode. All right, so again, we have a multi-flow technology where we can charge the battery and send the power to the load at the same time, or you can get also power from the PV and power from the battery at the same time. And again, this is basically, you can do three phase loads if you want, and also single phase loads. So it's really up to you to decide. From there, you will have the discharge capacity of whatever battery you have installed. So if you have a 10 kilowatt Simo Gen24 and you have a 22 kilowatt hour battery, you can have 9 kilowatt discharge, for example, even in backup mode. All right. From there, we also have some third-party integration and e-mobility there. So we have a lot of open interfaces. It's really easy to communicate with our inverter. So you can do home automation. You can have different EV chargers also connected to the inverter. What we want to achieve there is to make sure that with this excess of power, we divert it to let's say some of those smart devices. So in terms of communication, of course, you can have a LAN connection, you can have a Wi-Fi connection to the product, you can have Modbus communication, and also you can control the inverter via digital IOS and also some API solution there. All right. So as mentioned before, diverting excess of energy. So we've been doing that for quite a long time with our Snap inverter. So it's also available with the Primo. So you can control up to 4 different loads. Depending on the excess of power that you have. So again, you can say, okay, turn this particular device first and then turn the next, depending on how much excess of power. And again, what we're trying to achieve there is this maximum self-consumption. In terms for your installer, it's really easy and flexible to plan, all right? Also designer when it comes to the Gen24. So the inverter, let's say Primo Gen24 comes from 3, 4, 5, 6. So here in Australia, we're just going to bring the 4, 5, and 6. Not a lot of people uses, I would say 3 kilowatt anymore. We have quite a broad voltage range with the Gen24. So a string of 3 modules is enough to start the inverter. All right. So here also we work on the MPPT voltage. It goes to 65 now. So if you look at the Primo 5 kilowatt, it was basically 80 volt before. Also with this inverter, you have 2 trackers, 22 amp on the first one and 12 on the second one. All right. And then you also have this battery input of 22 amps, which basically make us be able to charge the battery pretty fast. Okay. The last part is the oversizing ratio. So with the oversizing ratio, you have 150%. So if, for example, let's say you have a Gen24, you go for a 6 kilowatt Primo, right? You can put 150%, which is 9 kilowatt on the inverter. And then still, and if you have also a battery connected to the inverter, you can claim all the 150% in terms of STCs. All right, so that's also something to keep in mind for the customer. And if the customer is not ready for the full battery, like the whole stack, you can go with 2 modules for the battery, for example. So it gives you quite a bit of flexibility. So we have a 6, 8, and 10 kilowatt in terms of the Simo Gen24. So again, wide, broad voltage range. So 3 modules is enough to start the inverter. Then from there, the MPPT voltage range goes from 80 to 800 volt DC. All right. The MPPT 25 amps on the first one, 12 amps on the second one, and again, high input current in terms of the battery. The same thing applies. You have this 150% oversizing what you can do on the inverter. So 15 kilowatt on a 10 kilowatt if you have a battery, and claim all the STCs also. Finally, we have the smaller one, the 3, 4, and 5. It's pretty similar to the previous one. The one important part is the battery input and the MPPT input. It's less than the bigger one, so it's 12.5 amps there, and still can oversize by 150%. One important part, if you're using the 3, 4, or 5, it's in backup mode. Remember, when you do backup with 3, 4, and 5 SIMO, the 3-phase, you can do only PV point, right? You can't do the full backup. So that's an important point, I would say. The next feature with the Gen24 is the fan, the cooling, right? So in all our product, we have active cooling. Why do we have this active cooling? It's longer lifespan. So we have a lot of research that we did, a lot of experience in power conversion. And also we saw that there's a more yield also being produced with an active cooling system. Also, it gives a lot of flexibility in terms of performance and let's say design parameters. So you can see that we have a high input current. Because we have this active cooling, we can harvest this high input current. All right, so here you can see the new design in terms of the Gen24. So with this type of cooling system, with this new heat sink, we don't need to run the fan at 100% of its capacity because with this new cooling technology, it's more efficient. All right, and also if you look at the fan itself, it is a bit bigger, right? So the fins are wider. We can basically have a better airflow. If you combine that together, we don't need the fan to run at 100%. So that's also one of the advantage of this unit. So with the active cooling, it's a new, let's say, feature that we have. The next part is the shade management that we have with the Gen24, but also with our current snap inverter. So there are some misconceptions out there. So when there's a shading, let's say one panel is shaded, people think that with one module being shaded, the whole string is affected. Is it true? It's not actually 100% true. So in terms of shading, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you try to avoid shading as much as you can, right? You have solar modules there, they need to be in the sun, right? There's no point of putting all those solar modules in the shade, right? So if it is, let's say, heavily shaded, sometimes it's better to remove it and put it, let's say, at a different location. So it's always better to have a better planning and design, for example, using OpenSolar there. So just to show you a bit how it works, this misconception of the whole string going down if one panel is shaded, it's not actually the case. So here you can see, for example, a string, right? If you have a bit of shading on one panel, all panels have free bypass diode in it. So what will happen if you have a bit of shading? You will have one bypass diode activated, which will then allow the current going through, right? So if, for example, in this case, this panel goes to 66%, and you still have 100% with all the panels. So this is very important. I think this is a bit of a misconception out there in the market. So our inverter, what we also have there, we have a dynamic peak manager. So this is our shade management system. So there's a smart algorithm which basically find the perfect, let's say, global maximum power point. So here you can see a quick video. So when you have shading, you have two peaks in terms of power there. So usually normal inverter stops here, and then they see power reducing, and then we just track this particular point. Compared to us, we just track the whole curve, right? I will show you a slide next, which shows a bit better this demonstration there. So just to show you some of the effect there. So we have a case study where some panels get partly shaded from 845, right? And here you can see what happened to the system when the dynamic peak manager is off, right? So we can see this sudden change there, all right? So when we turn this dynamic peak manager on, we can see around extra yield, around 7% more yield there, right? So this is an integrated feature in the inverter. So here you can see the example that we've been through. So when you don't have shade, that's how it looks like. So this is your output power, right? And then from there, you scan the whole curve. And from there, if you have shade, you can have those two power points, right? From there, our inverter will scan this whole curve every 10 minutes to find this global maximum power point. And what we're doing in this instance is basically activating the diodes there, right, to see where is the best point. There's also a really good study, if you guys are interested, from the University of Southern Denmark, right, where they did a string optimizer, string inverters versus DC optimizer. I think this will be very interesting. So basically, they had some polls where they have shading, let's say, throughout the day. So it's a very interesting paper. I highly encourage you guys to have a look at this. All right. So few of the last point is how easy it is to install the inverter. So one of the things we got feedback is how our inverter is packed, right? So we want to make sure that when you guys go on site, it's really easy and simple to install the product. So everything goes out of the box in order so that you can install it in the right order. So the first thing that comes out, of course, is the installation manual. But here we have also the wall bracket, which goes on the wall. Then you have all the inverters, and finally the cover, right? So pretty straightforward. So it's not a lot of time spent on site. From there, just to show you quickly, so this is the wall bracket. This is the snap-in concept that we kept, right? And you have those features at the bottom, which locks the inverter. 180-degree screw, which basically make the IP rating, also the inverter, higher there. And also, you don't need any tool in terms of clamping your cables there, right? So you just directly basically put your cables into those spring release clamp, right? Pretty straightforward and simple. Also, commissioning is faster. So you have a WPS function, what you just press a button on the inverter, and also on your modem, it just syncs together straight away. So it's basically something that we work on, take a lot of feedback on board, and make better there. Servicing also is really important. So, you know, being in the industry 75 years in power conversion, we know that you need to service those inverters also out there. So we have one of the fastest service. So here you can see that we have only one board in terms of the power stack. And then from there you have those the pilot, which is also the different monitoring card, right? So you don't need to change the whole inverters. We also have just the power stack, but that's what we call it. Yeah. So only one trip to site with this product. So as you can see, we have a unique, versatile product. So we want to have all in one solution. And of course, you can use our SolarWeb platform to monitor those inverters, so similar as what you have. And on top of this is you also have the Fronius storage simulation. So for all the system that you already install, a snap inverter with a smart meter, you can click on analysis on both sides. All right, you go to simulation here, and then from there you will be able to run a battery simulation. So this will basically take real data and do a simulation of what battery will make sense for the customer. So those are for sites which has already been installed, but even if you're going and installing a Gen24 without a battery, make sure you have a smart meter, because then your life will be easier in terms of sizing the battery later on. We also have plans in terms of more storage. So you guys know that we can parallel of multiple batteries to one inverter, but also we want to be able to have 3 Gen24s. So if you have multiple Gen24s, let's say you want to install multiple one on site, at the moment they can't talk to each other, but we're planning to make them work. There's already solutions around it. So if you guys want to do it, please get in touch with Fronius here. All right. So that's pretty much it in terms of like a quick summary of the product itself and also the vision. So you can see that this Gen24 brings us closer to our 24 hours of sun, 100% renewable there. So you know what we play a big part. I always mention, if you guys are interested in terms of what Fronius is doing around hydrogen, please go and have a look online, just type Fronius hydrogen. But you can see that this particular product completes our core portfolio to bring us closer to this 100% renewable. So I think from there, we will take some questions.
Cool, well done, Sebastien. I learned a lot there as well during that presentation. That was really cool, and yeah, particularly cool that that university paper from Southern Denmark. I think I saw one of the questions come through there. if one of the users could get sent that paper. So maybe you could like possibly share that with us, or tell us where to find that paper. It'd be interesting to look into.
Definitely will add that on my to-do list to send all the attendees this particular paper for sure. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. I think, yeah, most of the questions have been answered for the OpenSolar side of things from my colleague Dion. So thanks, Dion, for managing that. I think there might just be a couple there, Fronius related. So I might let you take the floor on that whenever you have time to catch up, Sebastien.
Sure. I will just quickly maybe go through those questions there, so makes it easier. So where can we find those cheat sheets that you just shown? So you guys will have all the slides or the presentation after the webinar. One good question from Chris Ryan: what if batteries change? Will they still be compatible? Yes, definitely on our side, those batteries should be compatible with the BYD. So we are having a long-term plan with them. And I can tell you, even if you look at their old BYD batteries, we made sure that whatever we said was compatible at the time is still compatible. So for example, the old HV batteries are still compatible with our snap inverter up until now. And from there, if anything, let's say happen, they will still cover the warranty. They still have stock in terms of the inverter. Can you set the battery up to charge from clip energy? I'm not sure what you mean there, Gareth. Maybe can formulate this one again. Okay, good question. Will the PV point also work when the grid is on? No, it won't work. Basically, the PV point only work when the grid is down. So Gareth had a good question. Can we also overload the PV capacity beyond 1.33 when a battery is added? Yes, you can oversize it. In general, you can oversize the inverter with or without battery. So this 1.33 rule is basically your STCs, right? So how much you can claim. So if you have a battery, you can claim 150%, right? The whole thing. Okay, good question from Bill. Is the long-term plan that the Primo GEN24 range will supersede the current Primo range? On the long term, yes. Of course, at a certain stage, we will stop. The same as what we did with our IG range, right? But at the moment, nothing has been communicated yet. With the Cyber GEN24 Plus, will it be recommended for the customer to go with an HVS10 or HVM? Okay, that's a good question. So it all depends. So if you go with an HVM 11 kilowatt hour, you get only 4.45 kilowatt discharge. Compared to an HVS, you get 9. So if it was me, I will go with the HVS. And also it depends which inverter you select, right? If it is a small inverter, a 6, for example, maybe I will go down to the HVM. But it all depends on charge and discharge, right? And this charge and discharge dictates how fast your battery will get charged, right? How long it takes. There's a question regarding the GEN24. I was under the belief that if above 5 kilowatt rated output, you will lose eligibility for the export credit. That's a good question. Not 100% sure which one it is, but yeah, I think on our side, I'm not sure about these questions with the export credit, but you can export limit the inverter if you want. So, good question from Bill. Is it a variable speed fan? What is the rated dB noise level? So with the variable speed fan, yes, all our inverter are variable speed fan, right? Even the snap inverter. So with the dB noise level is around 48 decibel, if I'm not wrong there, which is way lower than our snap inverter. So definitely I can tell you this one is lower compared to the snap. I heard it myself at 100%, it's lower for sure. Rick has a question. Can we give you an efficient? Can you please give me an efficient curve at a low voltage? We'll need to have a look at this one, Rick. I don't have it with me, but if you can send this to PV solution team. So this is basically our email address for all, let's say, design questions. So I'll just put it to all of you guys, so you will have this particular email. Okay, so Gareth have a question. What, the current is not dropping to the worst performing panel? No, it's not dropping to the worst. Yes, this is in regards to the shading. That's basically how it actually works. I think this is some misinformation out in the market there. Another question, when will it be compatible with LG batteries? So at the end of this year, we should see the new LG batteries. So I know that there will be one LG batteries mid this year. It won't be compatible with the one mid this year, but end of this year, there will be another new LG battery. Then University of Denmark, I will send it to all of you guys. So you'll have a link. You can have a look at this. Question, how much can we oversize a SIMO 20? So with the SIMO 20, I'm pretty sure it's 150%, but can have a quick look at this for you. Another good question from Gareth. We can oversize the PV to 150%. The middle of the day, this DC energy will be lost if the battery is already charged. Consequently, we need to set battery to charge only from clip energy, the wasted energy, or at least have the ability to charge only from 10 a.m. That's something that we are working on, Gareth, where you can tell when to charge, have set, let's say, different settings. But just in general, you always want to oversize your system. And also remember, you have energy management where you can turn on and off different devices, or even store energy through hot water also. So that's also a solution there. Good question. Is the full backup feature only available if the battery are present? Full backup, you need the battery, yes. Another question, when is the SIMO Gen24 available in Australia? It is available, so you can get in touch with the customer. It's been in the market since November last year, but just get in touch with an official sales partner. Is there any reason why there's no 8.2 Primo Gen24? So we're working on a bigger one, definitely. But in the meantime, we only have the 456, but we know that we need a bigger one for sure. So Colin had a question about the 15 kilowatt free strings of 10.62 amps, a string on a three-phase inverter. Can I install 10 kilowatt three-phase inverter? You can check that on our Fronius solar configurator, or you can use the OpenSolar design for this. Definitely, we can check that. If you can just send us an email, Colin, we can have a look. I think that's pretty much, there was quite a lot of questions for sure here. So if we miss your question, please send us an email if ever we haven't answered it. One thing that I can tell you guys is we are having a more detailed session end of this week, another webinar where we're going to cover more topics, I would say. Also, every Victorian installer here, or even sales person, we have a Gen24 roadshow on Thursday if you're interested. So just go ahead to our website, or just type Gen24 roadshow Victoria. So we'll be in South Melbourne this week, so you can pop up and say hi, and also have a chat with one of our engineers there. But that's pretty much it I would say. So if no one has any questions, thanks everyone again. Thanks Christian for joining us today with this excellent presentation with OpenSolar. Hopefully we can do a few more sessions with you, Christian. And you guys are based in Sydney, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we're based in Sydney, but yeah, we do have, yeah, of course, solar installers all across Australia, New Zealand, and other parts of the world as well.
All right, that sounds really great. Definitely, when I'm in Sydney, we should catch up or do some session. But thanks again for today, and thanks everyone for joining our training today.
Cool. Cheers, guys.